The cavern's oppressive silence was broken only by the steady drip of water echoing through the vast underground chamber. Here the black current split, diverging in two starkly contrasting veins. One path twisted sharply to the left, its walls jagged and slick, the river rushing with a forbidding roar. The other meandered slowly to the right, shadowed and still, its course uncertain and tangled with unseen obstacles. Evelyn Hart stood at the crossroads, her keen eyes reflecting the dull glow of headlamps as she surveyed the options. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and mineral-rich water, cold and biting against the skin beneath their protective gear. Around her, the team gathered, their faces pale in the lamplight, expressions taut with the weight of the decision before them. "We must choose carefully," Evelyn began, her voice steady but carrying the gravity of command. "The left path promises speed, but at great peril. Rockfalls are frequent there. The current is strong. One misstep could be fatal." Jonas Vega stepped forward, his rugged frame casting a large shadow on the cavern wall. His dark eyes glimmered with a mix of impatience and resolve. We were running against time, Evelyn. The right path could lead us into dead ends or worse, traps we can't anticipate. I say we take the shortcut. We retrained for this. I've navigated worse. Anika Rao adjusted her glasses nervously, her voice soft but firm. Both choices carry risks, but rushing headlong could jeopardize more than just time. The artifacts and ruins we've found demand caution. We can't afford reckless moves. Marco Silva, standing slightly apart with his ever-present tablet, rubbed his chin thoughtfully. From a logistical standpoint, longer routes mean more supplies, more exposure. But the shortcut could mean losing the team. We need to weigh the costs. Lena Torres, camera slung around her neck, observed silently, her eyes flitting between the faces of her companions. She knew the stakes were far beyond a simple path choice. It was a test of their collective spirit and trust. The debate grew heated. Jonas' voice rose, challenging Evelyn's leadership, accusing her caution of stalling their progress and endangering the mission. Evelyn responded with calm authority, reminding the group of the losses already endured and the unforgiving nature of the black current. Anika appealed to their shared duty to protect the legacy of the ancient civilization they sought to understand. Minutes stretched into an agonizing hour. The cavern walls seemed to close in, the river's whisper turning into a haunting chant that echoed their inner turmoil. Finally, Evelyn took a breath, her decision made. We take the right path, slow and steady. We cannot afford to lose any more of this team. Jonas clenched his jaw but nodded, recognizing the wisdom despite his frustration. The group moved as one, the fragile bonds of trust holding taut but intact. As they progressed, the river's flow seemed to pulse around them, a living entity testing their resolve. The rock beneath their feet was slick, the air thick with anticipation and unseen danger. Every step carried the weight of hope and fear, the team acutely aware that their choices here would shape the fate of their expedition and perhaps their very lives. Through narrow tunnels and shadowed alcoves, the explorers advanced, their path uncertain, but their determination unwavering. The black current flowed relentlessly beside them, a symbol of time's unending march and the mysteries that awaited. In this crucible of decision and consequence, the explorers learned anew the delicate dance between ambition and caution, between trust and doubt. The river was not merely a passage but a force demanding respect and unity. As the chapter closed, the team's footsteps faded into the darkness, carrying with them the fragile hope that this choice would lead them closer to the elusive heart of the black current and not to their doom. Ahead lies the unknown, Evelyn whispered, eyes fixed on the shadowed path. But together we flow onward. The black current listened, silent and eternal. The narrow passageway opened onto a hidden chamber, its entrance veiled by centuries of sediment and shadow. As the team stepped cautiously inside, a hushed reverence settled over them, the air thick with the weight of forgotten history. Flickering lantern light revealed walls adorned with cryptic carvings, the remnants of a civilization long swallowed by the black current's relentless flow. Dra. Anika Rao moved forward with a purposeful grace, her slender fingers brushing away dust from a stone altar that dominated the chamber's center. The altar's surface was etched with intricate symbols, spirals, waves, and figures entwined in what appeared to be a ritualistic dance. The air seemed to hum softly, as if the cavern itself whispered the secrets of its past. These markings, Anika murmured, adjusting her glasses to better focus on the faded inscriptions. They're not merely decorative. They speak of ceremonies, offerings to the river, to the life force that sustained their people. Jonas Vega, ever the pragmatist, frowned as he scanned the chamber's perimeter. Feels like we're trespassing on something sacred. We came for science, but this feels like a warning. Evelyn Hart stepped closer, her sharp eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Warnings or not, these artifacts could redefine our understanding of subterranean cultures. We must document everything meticulously. Lena Torres, camera in hand, moved silently to capture the haunting beauty of the chamber. The click of her shutter punctuated the stillness, each image freezing moments of a civilization lost to time. "These photos will tell their story to the world," she said softly, her voice tinged with awe. Marco Silva consulted his tablet, projecting detailed blueprints of the chamber over the dim light. "The financial backers will want to know the significance of this find," he said, his tone brisk yet respectful. "But we must also consider the costs, not just monetary, but ethical. Disturbing such a site could have unforeseen consequences." Anika nodded, feeling the heavy burden of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The black current was more than a river to these people. It was a living entity, a deity even. Our intrusion risks desecrating their legacy. The team gathered in a tight circle, the cavern's shadows dancing on their faces as they debated their next move. Evelyn advocated for thorough scientific exploration, Jonas pushed for caution, and Anika urged respect for the ancient rites etched into the stone. Lena's quiet observations reminded them that their story was not just about discovery, but about honoring the past. As voices rose and fell, the chamber seemed to listen. Its silence a powerful reminder of the mysteries that lay beneath mysteries that demanded not only curiosity but humility. The explorers realized that their journey was no longer just a physical descent into the earth, but a profound ethical passage into the heart of human heritage. The black current flowed ceaselessly beyond the chamber's walls, its dark waters carrying with them the echoes of a civilization that had revered, feared, and ultimately succumbed to its relentless power. And now the explorers stood at a crossroads, their path shaped as much by moral conviction as by scientific inquiry. As the chapter closed, Anika's fingers lingered on the altar's carvings, her mind alive with questions that transcended the tangible. How far should they push? What price would their discoveries exact? And could they, in their quest for knowledge, remain true to the silent voices that whispered through the stones? The black current was no longer just a river. It was a test of courage, conscience, and the delicate balance between humanity and the unknown. The cavern was eerily silent save for the distant murmur of the black current, its dark waters flowing with an ancient, relentless insistence. Jonas Vega, heart pounding with that familiar mix of adrenaline and recklessness, eyed the narrow ledge ahead, a treacherous shortcut that promised to shave precious hours off their journey, but at a perilous cost. Behind him, the faint voices of the team echoed, cautious and wary, but Jonas had long since stopped listening to hesitations. "I've got this," he muttered under his breath, tightening his grip on the jagged rock face as he stepped forward. The ledge was slick, the cold seep of underground moisture clinging to every surface. His boots found purchase for a moment, then slipped. A sharp crack echoed through the cavern as the fragile stone beneath him fractured, shards tumbling into the abyss. Jonas's arms flailed, eyes wide with shock as he plummeted, crashing into the icy river below with a violent splash that sent ripples of panic through the expedition. "Jonas!" Jarter Evelyn Hart's voice cut through the sudden chaos, sharp and commanding. The group scrambled to the edge, hearts hammering as the cold water swallowed Jonas's silhouette. Without hesitation, Evelyn sprang into action, barking orders to Marco and Nina to ready the ropes and medical supplies. Anikaro's breath caught as she peered into the dark, churning waters, her mind racing with the symbols and inscriptions they'd uncovered, omens, perhaps, of the dangers lurking beneath. But this was no ancient curse, this was raw, unforgiving reality. Minutes stretched like hours as the rescue unfolded. Lena Torres captured every moment, her camera clicks punctuating the tension. Draw. Felix Harrow prepared the medical gear, his calm professionalism a stark contrast to the turmoil in the cavern. Finally, slick and shivering, Jonas was hauled from the depths, coughing and bruised but alive. "You reckless," Evelyn began, but the words caught in her throat as she took in the raw fear and regret etched across his weathered face. That night, the cavern's shadows seemed heavier, charged with the unspoken fractures within the team. Around a flickering lantern, voices rose and fell in heated debate. Blame mingled with fear, frustration with desperate hope. Jonas sat silent, the weight of his actions pressing down, while Evelyn's gaze hardened with resolve. "This expedition demands discipline," she said firmly. "We cannot afford mistakes born of impulse. Our lives depend on trust and caution." Jonas nodded slowly, the first flicker of humility softening his rugged features. Anika's eyes met his, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, the fragile thread of unity beginning to weave anew. As the night deepened, so did the understanding that the black current was not merely a river to be mapped or conquered. It was a force that tested their limits, their bonds, and their very will to endure. The breaking point had come, but from its fracture, perhaps, something stronger could emerge. Yet, as the cavern whispered its ancient secrets and the river's relentless flow persisted, the question lingered: could they carry on, bound together, into the unknown that awaited beyond the next bend? The cavern was awash in a dim, bluish glow cast by the headlamps strapped to each explorer's helmet. Streaks of moisture clung to the jagged rock walls, shimmering faintly as the explorers settled beside the black current's swirling waters. "Dra." Evelyn Hart stood at the riverbank, her gaze steady, capturing the restless flow of the dark water that twisted and churned beneath the uneven ceiling of the subterranean chamber. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of damp earth and mineral-rich water, punctuated by the faint echo of dripping from unseen stalactites above. She drew a slow breath and turned to face the team, who had gathered around the makeshift camp they had established after their recent ordeal. The tension that had gripped them since the cave-in was easing, replaced by a cautious resolve. "We've come too far to falter now," Evelyn began, her voice calm but carrying a firm edge. "The black current tests us, yes, but it also teaches us. We must adapt, learn, and flow with it rather than fight it." Jonas Vega leaned against a rock nearby, arms crossed but attentive. His usual brash demeanor had softened. The reckless spark in his eyes was tempered by a new, deliberate focus. The near disaster had carved a deep impression into him, an urgent reminder of the fine line between courage and foolhardiness. He nodded slowly, meeting Evelyn's gaze with a silent promise to change. Anika Ross sat cross-legged, poring over a weathered tablet she had retrieved from a hidden chamber earlier in their journey. Symbols etched into its surface whispered tales of ancient civilizations long swallowed by time and stone. Her fingers traced the intricate patterns as she shared her latest interpretations. "The people who lived here revered the flow," she said softly. "They saw the river as a living entity, not just a source of water, but as a force that shaped their fate. We must honor that perspective as we move forward." Marco Silva, the expedition's financier, tapped on his tablet, reviewing logistics and supplies with a meticulous eye. Though pragmatic and often skeptical, even he found himself caught in the current of the explorers' renewed determination. "We can't afford another setback," he remarked, "but with this new approach, I believe we have a real chance." Lena Torres moved among them, her camera clicking quietly as she documented the human story woven through the natural one. The photographs captured more than faces and gestures. They held the essence of a team reborn through adversity. Their exhaustion was palpable, yet beneath it lay a wellspring of hope and unity. Meanwhile, Dar. Felix Harrow checked medical supplies and tended to minor injuries, his calm presence a steadying balm. He spoke quietly with Jonas about pacing and self-care, emphasizing that survival depended not just on skill, but on endurance. Later, Jonas slipped into the water, his wetsuit a dark shadow against the river's shifting surface. This time, he moved with newfound restraint, each stroke measured and purposeful. The underwater passages that had once seemed mere obstacles now revealed themselves as puzzles, their currents and eddies demanding respect. He carefully mapped routes, signaling back to the team with precision rather than haste. The black current surged with a power that was both beautiful and terrifying. It was a living paradox, unyielding yet ever-changing, relentless yet rhythmic. As the explorers pressed deeper, they became part of its flow, learning to anticipate its moods and movements. The river no longer felt a foe to conquer, but a force to embrace. One evening, a low rumble vibrated through the cavern, a reminder of nature's raw, indifferent power. The water swelled, its dark waves licking the rocky banks with increasing urgency. The explorers paused, senses heightened, hearts synchronized with the pulse of the underground river. Evelyn's voice cut through the charged silence. "The black current moves on, indifferent to us. But we move with it now, stronger and wiser." The chapter closed on this moment of solemn resolve. The explorers united against the unknown ahead. Their journey was far from over, but with each step and stroke, they were becoming more than a team. They were a force shaped by the flow itself, ready to face whatever depths awaited. As the current twisted onward, so too did their story, flowing eternally toward revelation and peril. The cavern yawned before them like the maw of some ancient beast. A vast hollow swallowed in an oppressive darkness that seemed to absorb even the faintest glimmers of their headlamps. Dresser, Evelyn Hart stood at the edge of the precipice, her sharp eyes scanning the jagged silhouettes of rock that framed the black waters of the river. The air was thick with a dampness that clung to skin and clothing, carrying the faint, almost imperceptible scent of mineral and decay. A low, haunting echo resonated from the depths below, a sound that was neither wholly natural nor entirely mechanical, but something in between. A pulse that seemed to beat in time with the explorers' quickening heartbeats. Behind her, Jonas Vega tightened his grip on the rope harness, muscles taut beneath his rugged, weather-beaten exterior. His breaths came in controlled bursts, the cold air crystallizing briefly as it escaped his lips. The river here was no mere trickle. It was a black, shifting force that swallowed light and sound, twisting through the cavernous labyrinth like a living entity. Every movement of the water sent ripples through the shadows, reflections dancing eerily on the walls, as if the darkness itself was alive and watching. "Stay close," Evelyn commanded softly, her voice steady despite the charged atmosphere. "We don't know what's waiting downstream." Anika Ra's slender frame followed, her glasses catching the faint gleam of the headlamp, as she peered intently at the mineral formations lining the cavern. Her fingers traced the contours of strange crystalline clusters that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly glow, their luminescence casting ghostly reflections that flickered like restless spirits. "These formations," she whispered, "they're unlike anything recorded in the subterranean records. There's something unnatural about their composition." Jonah shot her a glance, his usual dry humor absent in the face of the profound unease settling over the group. "Unnatural or not, we need to keep moving. This place doesn't feel like it wants visitors." The river's roar grew louder, a relentless thrum that filled the cavern with a low, vibrating menace. The explorers exchanged glances, each feeling the weight of the black current's indifferent power pressing against their resolve. Marco Silva adjusted his tablet, the practical businessman's skepticism momentarily overshadowed by the raw, elemental awe of the scene. Lena Torres, ever the chronicler, raised her camera with a steady hand. "This is what adventure looks like," she murmured, snapping a photo of the swirling black waters that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat in the cavern's darkness. Captain Elias Grant took point, his weather-beaten face set in a mask of concentration as he guided the small inflatable boat toward the river's edge. "Hold on tight," he warned, the steady timbre of his voice cutting through the cavern's eerie silence. "The current here is unpredictable." Jonas led the descent into a narrow passage where the water rose quickly, the temperature dropping sharply until their breath became visible, misting in the cold air. The tunnel walls closed in, jagged and slick, shadows flickering with every flicker of their lamps. The sense of menace was palpable, an unseen presence lurking just beyond the reach of light. "Watch your footing," Nina Patel cautioned, her voice calm but edged with urgency. She adjusted the settings on her equipment, ensuring their communication devices and monitoring sensors remained functional despite the hostile environment. Suddenly, a surge rocked the boat, the river's roar swelling into a deafening crescendo. The explorers gripped the sides as the current threatened to sweep them into the abyssal darkness ahead. Evelyn's voice rang out, sharp and commanding, "Brace yourselves!" The boat shuddered violently, tossing them against the cavern walls, water spraying like liquid ice. Jonas scrambled to steady the vessel, muscles straining against the relentless force. In that moment, the true nature of the black current revealed itself, not just a river, but a living, breathing force indifferent to their presence, a test of will and endurance. Gistar Felix Harrow, ever vigilant, scanned the group for injuries, his calm demeanor a steady anchor amidst the chaos. Everyone accounted for. One by one, the team nodded, breaths heavy but spirits unbroken. The passage narrowed again, the water blacker than ever, swallowing their light. Evelyn's mind raced, cataloging the geological features, the mineral signs, the subtle shifts in the current. Each detail was a clue, a fragment of the river's ancient story written in stone and water. "This is the heart of darkness," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "The place where the river's true nature is revealed." Jonas's usual bravado was tempered by a rare solemnity, and where we find out if we are strong enough to survive it. Annika's fingers brushed against the cavern wall, where faint inscriptions hinted at the echoes of lost civilizations. "They faced this too," she murmured, "and left warnings we are only beginning to understand." The river surged again, a reminder that here, in the depths, nature ruled with indifferent cruelty. The explorers pressed onward, each step a defiance against the abyss, each breath a testament to human resilience. As they moved deeper into the cavern, shadows lengthened and the air grew heavier. The black current whispered to them in a language older than time, a relentless flow that carried with it the promise of discovery and the threat of oblivion. Evelyn glanced back at her team, their faces illuminated by the flickering lights, eyes wide with awe and fear stay together. trust in each other. The river tests us, but it will not break us. The chapter closed on the explorers venturing further into the unknown, caught between wonder and dread. Caught in the heart of darkness, where the black current held its secrets close. The river's eternal flow carried them onward, deeper into a mystery that was as beautiful as it was deadly. A force that would challenge every fiber of their being and redefine what it meant to explore.